Welcome to the 1 Hour Guide by Anil Nathu. Today we're diving deep into Morgan Housel's The Psychology of Money.
Okay. Sounds good.
We're not just talking about dollars and cents,
Right.
but the mindset behind financial success.
The psychology, yeah.
We've got Anil's guide right here,
Mm-hmm.
and I think you're going to be surprised by how much your personal history
Okay.
actually influences your financial decisions.
I mean, that makes sense, right?
It really does.
Yeah.
What do you think?
Well, it's fascinating how Housel debunks this whole idea that there's one right way to think about money.
Mm-hmm.
What might seem like a crazy financial decision to one person
Right.
might make perfect sense to someone else just because of their background.
Yeah, like if you think about someone who grew up
Mm.
during a time of like hyperinflation,
Right.
where prices were just going crazy,
Yeah.
I mean, they'd probably have a totally different view of saving
Totally.
as someone who's always known stable prices.
Absolutely. Imagine like growing up
Yeah.
and seeing your family's savings just wiped out practically overnight. I mean, that would shape how you approach everything. Right?
Everything.
Risk investing,
Mm-hmm.
even the simple act of putting money in the bank.
It really makes you think twice about any time you might have judged
Oh, yeah.
someone else's financial choices.
Absolutely.
It's like, whoa,
Right.
I don't know their whole story.
You just don't know.
And Housel brings up this great example in the book of Bill Gates.
Oh, yes.
Do you remember this one?
The one about Gates being lucky enough to go to like
Yeah.
one of the only schools at the time that actually had a computer?
If he had been born just a few years earlier,
Right.
or in a different place,
Imagine.
who knows if Microsoft would even exist.
It's crazy to think about.
It makes you think about how much luck and chance
Yeah.
plays into what we often perceive as pure success.
It's humbling, isn't it?
It is.
It doesn't diminish hard work, of course. But suddenly that whole self-made narrative gets a lot more nuanced, you know?
Oh, totally. Have you ever, like, beat yourself up
Oh, yeah.
over a financial failure
Definitely.
where there might have been factors outside of your control that you didn't even consider?
For sure.
It's so easy to fall into that trap
Yeah.
of thinking it's all on us,
Yeah.
but then flip it around. Like those times when things went really well for you.
Yeah.
Were you always the sole reason for that success?
Right. That's a good point.
I think we often forget about those external factors.
Yeah, you're absolutely right. Recognizing the role of chance,
Yeah.
both good and bad,
Mm-hmm.
is so crucial for making, I think, sound financial decisions.
Totally.
It leads to like more humility,
Yeah.
more thoughtful risk assessment.
Right.
And it helps us avoid that dangerous never enough trap.
Okay, tell me more about that never enough thing.
Yeah.
Because I remember chapter 3
Okay, yeah.
had some pretty intense examples,
Mm-hmm.
like Brendan Madoff.
Oh, right.
This guy was already like a financial rock star.
He was, but he still orchestrated one of the largest Ponzi schemes in history.
It's crazy. And then
Yeah,
Rajat Gupta,
right.
former managing director of McKinsey.
Mm,
Both of these guys achieved incredible success,
right.
but they kept striving for more,
More.
risking everything in the process.
And they ended up losing it all.
They never really defined
Mm-hmm.
what enough looked like for them.
That's the danger, isn't it? Like this constant chase for more
Yeah.
without a clear sense of what truly brings contentment.
Right.
And this is where I think the psychology of money gets really interesting.
Yeah.
It's about understanding your own motivations,
Right.
your values, and what truly matters to you.
I'm thinking about that in the context of compounding,
Mhm.
which Housel talks about in chapter 4.
Okay.
Such a powerful concept,
It is.
but it requires like patience and a long-term perspective.
That's where the challenge lies, right? Like
Yeah.
we're wired for instant gratification.
Mm-hmm.
So it's hard to grasp this magic of compounding, which is all about that slow, steady growth over time.
He uses Warren Buffett as like
Yeah.
a perfect example for this.
A classic example.
It wasn't risky bets or
Whoa.
overnight wins
Yeah.
that built his wealth.
It was decades of consistent investing.
Yeah.
Just letting that money snowball over time.
And the snowball analogy is so perfect
I know, right?
because it highlights that exponential nature of compounding.
Exactly.
Those early gains might seem small,
Yeah.
but over time,
They build up.
they create this momentum
Mm-hmm.
that's almost unstoppable.
Absolutely. It makes you think about like those small financial decisions that you made maybe years ago.
Right.
Like maybe you started putting a little bit of money into a retirement account.
Mm-hmm.
Or finally paid off that nagging credit card debt.
Yeah, those little things.
Think about where you'd be now if you hadn't made those choices.
It's crazy how impactful those small decisions can be.
It is.
Over the long run.
Absolutely.
And speaking of the long run,
yeah,
one of the most important things that Housel talks about is that staying wealthy is a totally different game.
Completely different.
Than getting wealthy.
It is.
He uses Lehman Brothers as an example.
Right.
In Chapter 5.
Yeah.
They were masters at building wealth.
Through risk. Through innovation.
But when the market shifted, they weren't prepared for that different skill set that's required to preserve that wealth.
It's almost like you need this offensive mindset to build a fortune.
Interesting.
But a defensive mindset to hold on to it.
That's a great way to think about it.
Isn't it?
It is. So are there any areas in your life right now
let me think.
where you feel like you need to be playing offense? Taking risks, putting yourself out there. And then where do you need to be playing defense? Protecting what you've already achieved.
Yeah. That's a good question to think about.
It is. Because sometimes I think we get so caught up in one mode that we neglect the other.
Right.
And that can lead to some pretty big setbacks.
Absolutely.
Whether in finances or even just other areas of our life.
I agree.
It's all about balance, right?
It is.
Knowing when to push forward and when to hold back.
I think that ties in nicely with Housel's concept of tail events.
Oh, yeah. Tail events.
Of Chapter 6.
These are those rare, unpredictable things that can happen that can just totally change the game.
They can. Think about it like this.
Okay.
Have you ever had a few key investments in your portfolio that ended up driving like the majority of your returns? Or maybe in your career, it was just a handful of decisions or projects that really propelled you forward.
Okay, I'm following you.
Those are tail events.
So it's not that every decision carries equal weight.
Right.
But that some events have an outsized impact.
That's exactly.
Even if we can't predict which ones those will be.
It's less about trying to predict the future perfectly and more about just being open to possibilities, taking calculated risks, and positioning yourself to benefit from those tail events when they do happen.
Because sometimes it is just about being in the right place at the right time.
It is.
With the right skills or insights.
You got it.
So maybe the key takeaway here is to just expose yourself to enough opportunities.
That's a good way to put it.
Even if some of them don't work out.
Right.
Because the ones that do succeed can have a massive impact on your overall trajectory.
It's about having a mindset of like experimentation, embracing uncertainty.
Yeah.
Because in the world of money, like in life, sometimes the biggest wins
come from those like unexpected turns of events.
That is so true.
And that, I think, leads us nicely into another powerful concept that House explores.
Okay.
This idea that the best thing that money can buy is freedom.
Oh, yeah. Chapter 7, freedom.
Yes.
I remember loving that section.
Me too.
Because it really gets to the heart of why we even care about money in the first place, right?
Absolutely.
It's not about the numbers themselves,
but
what those numbers allow us to do.
Exactly. Money is a tool, and the most valuable thing it can buy is freedom.
Freedom from financial stress. Freedom to choose how you spend your time.
Exactly.
Freedom to pursue your passions without being limited by a paycheck.
It's about having options, having control over your life.
And that freedom is often so tied to how we manage our time.
It is.
Think about why you're listening to Anil's 1 Hour Guide, for example.
Oh, good point. You want to get the key takeaways from a book quickly and efficiently so you could free up your time for other things.
It's a form of freedom.
It is. If we're constantly stressed about money or working ourselves to the bone just to make ends meet, it's hard to focus on learning or growing or pursuing those things that really bring us joy.
Financial freedom gives you that mental space to invest in yourself, to be present in the moment. To, like, experience life more fully.
I love that.
And I think that's something that resonates deeply with our listeners who are all seeking to learn and grow in different ways.
Like a virtuous cycle, isn't it?
It is.
The more freedom you have, the more you can invest in yourself, which leads to even more freedom.
I love it.
Now, speaking of things that can trap us, let's talk about Housel's Man in the Car Paradox.
Oh, yeah, that's a good one.
From Chapter 8. I think we've all fallen for this
Oh, for sure.
at some point.
It's so relatable.
It's that tendency we have to buy flashy things to impress other people, thinking it will make us, seem more successful or important.
But here's the paradox.
Okay.
They're usually just admiring the object.
Oh, wow.
Not the owner.
Yeah.
Like, they might be impressed by the fancy car, but they don't necessarily respect or admire the person driving it.
That's so true.
And that can leave us feeling kind of empty and unfulfilled.
Right.
Because true respect comes from, like, character, from our actions, from how we treat others.
Right.
It doesn't come from the things we own.
You know, it makes me think about that time when
Tell me.
Well, you see.
Yeah, it's funny how those status symbols can, like, backfire.
Right.
Like, we're trying to buy our way into respect, but it rarely works that way.
Yeah. And it can be such a drain on our finances, too.
Totally.
It's like we're constantly chasing this external validation instead of focusing on building true wealth.
Yeah, and that's often invisible to the outside world.
Exactly.
Which is precisely what Housel dives into in Chapter 9.
Oh, yeah.
He argues that real wealth is what you don't see.
Okay.
It's the savings account that's growing steadily.
Right.
The investments that are working for you in the background. The lack of debt that allows you to sleep soundly at night.
It's like having that secret weapon. Like a financial foundation. That provides stability and security.
Exactly.
It's not about keeping up with the Joneses.
It's not.
But about building a life that feels truly abundant.
And fulfilling. And that sense of abundance often starts with a simple yet powerful act.
Okay.
Saving money. Housel dedicates Chapter 10 to this, and I think it's one of the most important takeaways from the book.
He calls it a superpower, right?
He does.
Which might seem a bit dramatic.
Yeah.
But when you think about it, that ability to save consistently, even in small amounts, it can have this ripple effect on every area of your life.
It's not just about the money itself.
Right.
But about the habits and discipline it builds.
Yeah.
Think about that sense of control you feel.
Yeah.
When you know you have a cushion to fall back on. An emergency fund that can help you weather those unexpected storms.
It reduces stress.
It does.
It builds confidence. And it even opens up opportunities that you might not have considered otherwise.
Because when you're not living paycheck to paycheck.
Right.
You have the freedom to take risks, to pursue passions, to invest in yourself in ways that might not have been possible before.
And that brings us back to this idea of reasonable versus rational decision-making.
Oh, yeah.
Which Housel explores in Chapter 11.
Okay.
I think it's a really important concept.
It is.
For anyone who wants to improve their relationship with money.
It is, because sometimes the most rational choice, the one that makes sense on paper or according to some financial algorithm, might not be the best choice for you. You know your individual circumstances, your personality, your risk tolerance. All of these factors come into play.
It's like that old saying, it's not what you make, it's what you keep.
Exactly.
You could be earning a great salary.
Yeah.
But if you're constantly stressed about debt or struggling to make ends meet, it's not going to feel very abundant.
And that's where intuition comes in.
Okay.
Housel argues that sometimes we need to trust our gut to make decisions that feel right for us, even if they don't perfectly align with what the spreadsheets or the experts might tell us.
So it's not about throwing logic out the window.
It's not.
But about finding that balance between what makes sense on paper and what feels right in your heart.
Exactly.
Based on your own values and experiences.
And that balance can be different for everyone.
Right.
What feels reasonable to one person might feel way too risky or too conservative for someone else.
I see what you mean.
It's about getting to know yourself, your financial personality, and what truly aligns with your goals and aspirations.
It's almost like you need to create your own personal financial philosophy.
Yeah.
Taking into account all the different factors that influence your decision-making.
Exactly. And that philosophy should be flexible enough to adapt as you change and evolve.
Yeah, that makes sense.
Which brings us to another crucial point that Housel makes in Chapter 12.
Okay.
You'll change.
You'll change.
It's a reminder that our financial needs, goals, and priorities are not static.
Yeah. What mattered to me financially 5 years ago is definitely not the same as what matters to me today.
Exactly. Our lives are constantly evolving, and our financial plans need to evolve along with them.
Think about all the major life transitions we go through.
Oh, yeah.
Starting a family, changing careers, maybe relocating to a new city.
Right.
Each of these events can have a significant impact on our financial needs and priorities.
Absolutely. So it's not about creating a rigid financial plan that you follow blindly for the rest of your life.
Yeah.
It's about having a framework that's flexible and adaptable, allowing you to adjust course as needed.
And that adaptability often involves recognizing that every financial decision comes with a cost.
That's something that Housel explores in Chapter 13.
Okay.
Nothing's free.
Nothing's free.
It's like that hidden price tag on every choice we make.
Sometimes those costs are obvious.
Right.
Like the sticker price of a new car.
Exactly.
But often they're more subtle.
They are. It's the opportunity cost. Of what you could have done with that money if you had chosen differently.
Interesting.
Or maybe it's the emotional cost.
Right.
Of feeling stressed or overwhelmed by a financial decision.
Yeah.
Sometimes it's even the cost of your time.
Right.
Spending hours researching and comparing options when you could have been doing something else.
It's about being aware of those trade-offs.
Right.
Those hidden costs. And making sure that the choices we make align with our values and goals.
Because sometimes we get so focused on the potential benefits of a decision that we overlook the potential downsides.
Right.
Or we get caught up in the excitement of a new opportunity without considering the long-term implications.
It's like we need to put on our critical thinking hats.
We do.
When it comes to money.
Yeah.
And that can be tough.
It can.
Especially in a world where we're constantly bombarded with marketing messages and financial advice from all directions.
And this is where Housel's insights about social influence come into play.
Okay.
In Chapter 14, You and Me.
You and Me.
He talks about how much our financial decisions are shaped by those around us. Our families, friends, colleagues.
It's so true.
Even society as a whole.
Like, have you ever felt pressure to buy something?
Oh, yeah.
You didn't really need?
For sure.
Just because everyone else had it?
Oh, absolutely.
Or maybe you felt bad about a financial decision because someone judged it?
Right.
Even though it made sense for you.
It's a universal experience.
It is.
And it highlights the importance of defining your own version of success.
Okay.
Your own enough.
Yeah.
Because when you're secure in your own financial values,
right,
those external pressures have less power over you.
It's about creating that inner compass.
Yeah.
So you don't get swayed by every financial fad or trend that comes along.
Exactly. And that inner strength is especially crucial when it comes to dealing with negativity, which is the focus of Chapter 15.
Right.
The seduction of pessimism.
Negativity.
Yes.
It's like a magnet, isn't it?
It is.
Bad news always seems to grab our attention.
More than good news.
More than good news.
And when it comes to money, it can be downright paralyzing.
Right.
We start focusing on all the potential risks and downsides.
Yeah.
And it can prevent us from taking action or pursuing opportunities.
Housel argues that pessimism often feels more intellectual.
It does.
Like we're being more realistic or cautious.
Right.
But if we let that negativity take over, it can really sabotage our financial goals.
It's about finding that balance between healthy skepticism, being aware of potential risks, and having a dose of optimism, believing in your ability to overcome challenges and achieve your goals.
I like that.
Because if you're constantly focused on what could go wrong, it's hard to make progress.
So how do we combat that negativity bias?
Okay, good question.
How do we stay focused on the long term when it feels like the world is falling apart around us?
Housel suggests a few strategies. One is to focus on what you can control. Instead of getting caught up in market fluctuations or economic doom and gloom, focus on your own financial habits, your savings, your investments. These are the things you have direct influence over.
That makes sense.
It's like taking back your power. Focusing on those actions that you can take rather than feeling helpless in the face of external events. And another strategy is to surround yourself with positive and supportive people. If you're constantly surrounded by negativity, it's going to be hard to maintain a positive outlook.
That's true.
Seek out communities, mentors, or resources that uplift and inspire you.
And this brings us to Chapter 16. Which I think is one of the most thought-provoking in the book.
Oh, really?
It's called When You'll Believe Anything.
When You'll Believe Anything.
This is where Housel dives into the dangers of confirmation bias. That tendency we all have.
We all have it.
to favor information that confirms our existing beliefs, even if it's inaccurate or misleading.
It's like we're seeking out evidence to support our pre-existing narrative,
Totally.
rather than being open to new information or challenging our assumptions.
Yeah. And when it comes to money, that can be really dangerous.
Oh, especially in the age of the internet.
Oh my gosh, yeah.
Where misinformation spreads like wildfire.
Right.
We can easily find experts or gurus who will tell us exactly what we want to hear, reinforcing our biases.
Yeah.
And potentially leading us down the wrong path.
So how do we combat that?
Okay.
How do we make sure that our financial decisions are based on sound reasoning and evidence, not just on wishful thinking or the latest internet fad?
Housel emphasizes the importance of developing critical thinking skills.
Okay.
It's about questioning everything you hear.
Yeah.
Doing your own research.
Right.
And being willing to change your mind when presented with new information.
It's about stepping outside of our echo chambers, exposing ourselves to different perspectives, and being willing to admit when we're wrong.
And this is where history can be a powerful teacher.
Okay.
Housel argues that studying financial history can help us recognize patterns, avoid common pitfalls, and make more informed decisions.
Like seeing those cycles of boom and bust, of fear and greed, play out time and time again throughout history.
It helps us understand that this time is different is rarely true.
Right.
And that the same basic principles of sound financial management apply, regardless of the current economic climate.
It gives us a framework for understanding how markets work, how human behavior influences those markets, and how to navigate those fluctuations with more wisdom and resilience.
Exactly. It's about learning from the mistakes of the past. So we can make better decisions in the present.
And I think that leads us perfectly into the final chapters of the book, where Housel pulls it all together.
He does.
Emphasizing the interconnectedness of all these concepts.
It's amazing how he weaves together. Psychology, history, sociology, even philosophy, into this holistic view of personal finance.
It's incredible.
It's not just about the numbers. It's about understanding the human element, the emotions, the biases, the stories we tell ourselves about money.
And Anil does a brilliant job of capturing that complexity in his guide.
He does.
He provides so many practical tips and actionable strategies, all grounded in Housel's insightful analysis.
It's like he's giving us a roadmap for creating a healthier, more balanced, and ultimately more fulfilling relationship with money.
And I think that's what resonates most with our listeners.
I think so too.
Who are all seeking to improve their lives in different ways.
It's about understanding that our financial decisions impact not only our wallets, but also our relationships, our well-being, our sense of purpose in the world.
Exactly. And that brings us to chapter 17.
Okay.
Where Housel gets quite personal. He calls it Confessions.
Confessions.
I remember that chapter. It's where he talks about his own financial journey, the mistakes he made, the lessons he learned along the way.
It's a really powerful section.
It is.
Because it humanizes him. It reminds us that even the experts don't have all the answers, that they make mistakes, that they're constantly learning and evolving just like everyone else.
And it takes some of the pressure off of us.
Doesn't it?
It's like, okay, so I'm not the only one who's made some less than ideal financial choices.
Exactly.
Even the people who write books about money mess up sometimes.
They do. It's a reminder that personal finance is a journey, not a destination. We're all constantly learning, adapting, and hopefully growing along the way.
And that growth involves being honest with ourselves about our past mistakes, embracing our imperfections, and striving to make better decisions moving forward.
Absolutely.
Even if it means challenging our own beliefs and assumptions.
It's about being open to new information. Being willing to change our minds. And ultimately creating a financial philosophy that works for us, even if it doesn't align with what everyone else is doing.
So what are some of those foundational principles that Housel suggests? What does a healthy financial philosophy look like?
He talks about the importance of patience, long-term thinking, and the power of compounding returns. He emphasizes the need for financial discipline and the dangers of succumbing to greed or envy. And he reminds us that true wealth is not measured solely in dollars and cents, but in the freedom and fulfillment it allows us to experience.
Those are powerful principles.
They are.
It sounds like Housel is advocating for a more mindful and intentional approach to personal finance.
He is, and Anil Nathu beautifully captures that message in his guide.
Yeah.
He provides practical tips and actionable strategies,
Right.
all grounded in Housel's insightful and thought-provoking analysis.
It's about aligning our financial decisions with our values, our goals, and ultimately the kind of life we want to create.
Exactly, and that life, according to Housel, should be one of purpose, meaning, and joy.
I love that.
It's about using money as a tool to enable those experiences rather than letting it control our lives or dictate our happiness.
That's such a powerful message.
It is.
It's about reclaiming our relationship with money.
Yes.
And using it to empower us rather than letting it enslave us.
Precisely. And Anil Nathu's Guide to the Psychology of Money provides a roadmap for that empowerment.
This has been such an eye-opening conversation.
It has.
I feel like I'm already rethinking my own financial philosophy and priorities.
That's fantastic to hear.
It is.
And we've only just scratched the surface of what Anil Nathu covers in his guide. He delves into specific examples, case studies, and practical tips that can help you apply these principles to your own life.
I can't wait to dive deeper into his guide.
Me too.
It's like having a personal finance coach in my pocket.
I love that analogy.
Guiding me toward a more mindful and intentional relationship with money.
It is, and that guidance can be transformative.
It can.
It can help you make better financial decisions, achieve your goals, and ultimately live a richer and more fulfilling life.
I'm so glad we took this deep dive together.
Me too.
It's been incredibly insightful and inspiring.
Me too. And remember, this is just the beginning.
Right.
The journey to financial wisdom is ongoing, but with the right mindset, the right tools, and the right guidance, anyone can achieve financial success and create a life of purpose and abundance.
That's such an empowering message.
It is.
It's a reminder that we have the power to shape our financial futures.
We do.
And create the lives we desire.
Yeah, we do. And Anil Nathu's Guide to the Psychology of Money can be a valuable companion on that journey.
Highly recommend checking it out.
It is.
It's packed with insights that can help you transform your relationship with money and unlock your full financial potential.
It is. And if you're looking for more business insights and practical advice, be sure to visit the 1 Hour Guide website. Anil Nathu offers a wealth of knowledge on various topics.
Awesome.
All delivered in his signature, concise, and engaging style.
It's like having a shortcut to becoming well-informed and empowered.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So what stood out to you the most from our conversation today?
That's a good question.
What are you going to rethink about your relationship with money?
Honestly, so much resonated with me from this book, but that man in the car paradox.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, that really hit home.
It's so true.
I've definitely caught myself like trying to impress others with material things.
Yeah.
You know, instead of focusing on what truly makes me happy.
Right. It's a trap that's easy to fall into, especially in a culture that often equates material possessions with success.
Totally.
But once we become aware of that tendency, we can start making more conscious choices.
And you know what else really inspired me?
What's that?
Housel's emphasis on saving money.
Oh, yeah.
Like calling it a superpower makes it feel less like a chore and more like a tool for empowerment.
I love that. It's a shift in perspective that can make all the difference.
It really can.
Instead of viewing saving as deprivation. See it as an investment in your future freedom and peace of mind.
That's a great way to frame it.
Isn't it?
It is. And speaking of framing things differently, I love how Housel challenges us to think about reasonable versus rational decision-making.
Oh, yeah. That's a big one.
It's given me permission to trust my gut more when it comes to money, even if it goes against conventional wisdom.
That's the beauty of personal finance. It's deeply personal.
It is.
What works for one person might not work for another.
Right.
It's about finding what aligns with your values, your risk tolerance, and your unique circumstances.
It's like we're creating our own personalized financial playbook.
I like that.
You know, drawing on the best insights and strategies, but adapting them to fit our own needs and goals.
And that playbook should always be evolving just like we are.
It should.
Housel's reminder that you'll change really resonated with me.
Yeah, that was a good one.
It's so easy to get stuck in a certain way of thinking about money.
It is.
But the reality is that our lives are constantly changing.
Right.
And our financial strategies need to adapt along the way.
We can't assume that what worked for us in our 20s will still be relevant in our 40s or 50s.
Exactly.
Our priorities shift, our circumstances change, and we need to be open to adjusting our approach accordingly.
And those adjustments often involve acknowledging the costs associated with our choices, both the obvious and the hidden ones.
That Nothing's Free chapter was a real eye-opener.
It was.
Made me realize that every financial decision comes with trade-offs, opportunity costs, and sometimes even emotional baggage.
It's like we need to develop a more holistic view of cost-benefit analysis. Considering not just the financial implications of a decision, but also the impact on our time, our energy, and our overall well-being.
Sometimes saying yes to one thing means saying no to something else.
Right.
And those trade-offs aren't always obvious at first glance.
It's about being mindful and intentional with our choices. Asking ourselves, what am I gaining from this and what am I potentially giving up?
Right, and those choices are often influenced by the people around us.
Oh, for sure.
Which is what Housel explores in that You and Me chapter.
That's right, the social dynamics of money. It's amazing how much our financial decisions are shaped by our families, our friends, our colleagues.
It's so true. We're constantly bombarded with messages about what we should be doing with our money.
All the time.
How much we should be earning.
Yeah.
What kind of lifestyle we should have.
It can be overwhelming.
And it's so easy to get caught up in that comparison game, you know, trying to keep up with the Joneses or impress people who might not even care.
It's like we're seeking validation from external sources instead of looking inward and asking ourselves, what truly matters to me? What brings me joy and fulfillment?
And that inner clarity is so essential.
It is.
For creating a healthy relationship with money.
It is, because when you're grounded in your own values, those external pressures have less power over you.
It's like building that inner compass. That guides you toward financial decisions that align with your true north.
Right.
Regardless of what others might be doing or saying.
And that compass becomes even more important when we're navigating the often turbulent waters of financial information and advice.
Right. Housel's chapter on When You'll Believe Anything.
Oh, yeah.
Really resonated with me.
That was a good one.
That chapter was a bit scary, honestly.
It was a little bit.
It made me realize how susceptible we all are to confirmation bias.
Yeah.
Especially when it comes to money.
It's true.
You know, we tend to latch onto information that confirms our existing beliefs.
Yeah.
Even if it's not accurate or complete.
It's like we're searching for evidence to support our pre-existing narrative.
Exactly.
Rather than being open to challenging our assumptions or exploring different perspectives.
Right, and with the internet being a breeding ground for financial myths and get-rich-quick schemes.
Right.
It can be a dangerous combination.
It can be.
So how do we develop that critical thinking muscle?
That's the question.
How do we make sure that our financial decisions are based on sound reasoning and evidence?
Right.
Not just on wishful thinking or the latest internet trend.
Housel emphasizes the importance of being skeptical, questioning everything we hear, and doing our own research.
Yeah, it's about seeking out diverse sources of information.
Absolutely.
Consulting with trusted advisors.
Right.
And being willing to change our minds when presented with new evidence.
It's like we need to become our own financial detectives.
I like that.
Carefully sifting through the information overload and separating fact from fiction.
And this is where history can be such a valuable tool.
It can be.
Housel argues that studying financial history can help us recognize patterns, avoid common pitfalls, and make more informed decisions.
It's like seeing those cycles of boom and bust, of fear and greed.
Play out time and time again throughout history.
And it helps us understand that this time is different is really true.
So true.
And that the same basic principles of sound financial management apply, regardless of the current economic climate.
It's fascinating how all these seemingly disparate concepts,
I know, right?
like psychology, history, risk, freedom, social influence,
it's all connected.
All weave together to shape our relationship with money.
It really is.
It's not just about the numbers.
Right.
It's about understanding the human element.
Yeah.
The emotions, the biases, the stories we tell ourselves about money.
And that's what makes The Psychology of Money such a powerful book.
Is.
And why Anil Nathu's 1 Hour Guide is such a valuable companion.
Totally agree.
It's not just about financial tips and tricks.
Right.
It's about developing a deeper understanding of ourselves and how money impacts our lives in profound ways.
It's about becoming more financially literate,
Yeah.
but also more emotionally intelligent when it comes to money.
Absolutely.
And that's a journey that I think we can all benefit from,
We can.
regardless of our current financial situation.
It's about creating a healthier, more balanced,
Yeah,
and ultimately more fulfilling relationship with money.
absolutely. And I think Anil's guide provides a fantastic roadmap
It does.
for anyone who's ready to embark on that journey.
It does.
Well, this deep dive has been incredibly insightful and thought-provoking.
It has been.
I'm walking away with so many new ideas
That's great.
and a renewed sense of empowerment
I love that.
when it comes to managing my finances.
I'm so glad to hear that.
Thank you for being such a fantastic guide
Oh, you're welcome.
through these complex and fascinating concepts.
My pleasure. It's been a joy exploring the psychology of money with you.
Me too.
Remember, the journey to financial wisdom is ongoing,
It is.
but with the right mindset, the right tools, and a little guidance along the way, anyone can achieve their financial goals and create a life of purpose, abundance, and joy.
That's such an inspiring message. Thank you for joining us today. Visit the 1 Hour Guide website for more business insights by Anil Nathu.